Okay, boxing fans, going to talk about Deontay Wilder versus Malik Scott, my little thoughts on it, and just a bit on what everyone else is saying. And some people are on the money, some people are not on the money, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because it's gone down in history. When you're in the minority, on what you think about it, it doesn't really matter. You could have the greatest perception going, and if you're in the minority, it doesn't really matter. You can have the greatest arguments, and people are just going to laugh at you. So it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to talk about match fixing in general as well. And I've been watching boxing for 10 years religiously, so that's how I'm looking at this. And that was one of the most peculiar knockouts I think I've ever seen. I think it's undeniable that Wilder's got huge, epic punching power. But let's admit it, 90% of his opponents have been tomato cans. But 100% KO ratio is still impressive. But that was still a very peculiar knockout, and it's going to go down as that. It's going to have a big question mark next to it for the rest of his career, because once again, like I said in the opening bit, when you're in the minority, it doesn't actually matter what the facts are. If you're in the minority, you could have the greatest argument, but it don't really matter. It's still going to go down as one of the most peculiar knockouts of all time. Moving on, I've seen a lot of videos, commentary on this, and some people having to defend it with their lives. I'm thinking, why are you having to defend it with your lives? You don't get nothing out of it. But let them do what they do. Other people slamming the fight. Let them do what they're doing. Obviously, the boxing mainstream are trying to defend it with their lives because it's the business. They can't go in and say, yeah, this part of the business was fucked up that day. Oh shit. You know what I mean? They can't say that because one, they'll lose the job. Two, they'll admit that there's huge corruption in the business, and they can't do that, even if it's true, which we know it is true. It's like this, isn't it? As an example, if you're a waiter at a restaurant and the kitchen isn't up to hygiene standards, you're not going to go and tell everyone at the front of the shop or the restaurant that the kitchen is dirty, because you're going to lose your job and you need to pay your bills and you need your job. Even if you don't like your job, you still do it. I mean, not many people do their job and love their job. You do your job because you need to pay your bills. You're not going to slag off the business to everybody. Oh yeah, you're gonna slag it off to your friends and family, tell them not to eat there, and from there on, you see what it is. That's the comparison I've got for you on that one. I think that will work out for you. Now, the most moronic thing that I've heard is people are saying it's impossible to fix a boxing match. Now, that's a silly comment, because basically we know that it's a fact that boxing matches have been fixed before. It's a fact. It's a genuine fact. And I'll give you a few examples of historical ones. I'll give you a few examples of recent ones where boxing matches have been fixed in one way or another. But let's look at it. Okay, historical comparisons. Okay, you see, the IBF came about in 1984. Right, their president Robert Lee took bribes in order to advance fighters in their rankings. Now, if this is new to you, you're thinking, fucking prove it. Well, there's been an FBI investigation into it, and also the guy served 22 months in prison. He's been charged with it, so we know that it's the truth. Bob Arum has even admitted paying $100K to the IBF so that George Foreman didn't have to face his mandatory challenger, and instead he faced a guy called Alex Schulz, who he beat by majority decision. Like I said, it's a fact. We know the guy got put down for it, so you can't really argue with that. So that there's corruption at the very top, and that's moved down. Okay, people know that the FBI have recently said that the Ali versus Sonny Liston 2 fight was fixed. Now, it was obvious from anyone with eyes that was a very peculiar knockout. I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm not saying I disagree with it, but like with the Malik Scott versus Deontay Wilder fight, it was very peculiar. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. It's very peculiar. Sonny Liston later on goes away and dies. He had mob ties, died 5 years later of a heroin overdose. That also added to the mystique around it, because in a conspiracy, the loose ends are cut off. People say, well, why is Ali still alive? Well, one thing, maybe he didn't know about it. That way he's not, a loose end. And well, secondly, Ali was the biggest person in the sport. Then you couldn't exactly cut him as a loose end off, could you? But let's move on. Jake LaMotta admitted taking a dive against Billy Fox for an extra 20k and a shot at the world title. And this is championship boxing at the end of the day. This is Jake LaMotta moving on for a world title shot. Needed to take a dive to get that title shot. He also got himself an unwanted FBI investigation. It is what it is. Moving on again, Jack Dempsey versus Gene Tunney. Okay, Tunney's winning this fight, goes down. Everybody knows it's a rumour Al Capone's got big money on the winner of this fight, and what happens is the referee does, and to this day it's still known as the longest 10 count recorded in history. I mean, it was 1, 2, get up, 3. You know what I mean? So they did that, and Al Capone even had money on the rematch too. So it is what it is. Gene Tunney got up eventually, and won the fight. Moving on, Evander Holyfield versus Lennox Lewis, the draw. The whole world pretty much saw the end of Evander Holyfield as a top level competitor. Not many. I don't think anybody saw Evander Holyfield winning that fight or doing enough for even a draw. But it ended a draw, and everybody involved got extra payday. This, that, and the other in the rematch. So there's a different types of thing. We've got the LaMotta type thing where the guy took a dive, lost, to get the world title shot. We've got the Gene Tunney aspect where the referee helped, fix the ending of the fight. And we've got different things like Liston, if you believe that, I do. And like the judges at the end of the Lewis fight. So there's all different aspects of the boxing sport. Oh, and also obviously the IBF. There's all different aspects of the boxing sport being fixed. So now I'm going to move on and talk about present day stuff. I'll give you a few present day examples now. The first one I've got is Ricky Burns versus Ray Beltran in a fight where Ricky Burns would have done well to win 3 rounds in that fight. I think 3 rounds in that fight, never mind get a draw. Another one, Pacquiao versus Bradley, another fight where I didn't see Bradley winning more than 3 rounds in that fight. The highest profile robbery since Lewis versus Holyfield. Marquez versus Pacquiao 3, another high profile robbery. Rios versus Abril. Rios fans will do well to pick 3 rounds that he won, never mind won the fight. Seth Mitchell versus Jonathan Banks 2. Banks in that fight looked like he didn't even try and win. Seth Mitchell was actually 6-1 on points to win that fight. Banks has not fought since. Makes you think, doesn't it? Froch Groves, obviously this is the best one. Referee stops the fight. The second Froch gets the upper hand on Groves after Froch went through more damage in that fight than he ever has in his career up to that point. He's literally the opposite of Jack Dempsey versus Gene Tunney. Groves could have went down in that fight. If Groves took a knee, he'd have been like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're out. But that is what it is. We'll move on. And obviously this fight now, it's going to go down as another very peculiar fight where the left of the temple basically finished the fight. There was no right hand. There was no right hand connection, in my opinion. So the left hand done the damage. He's that killer. I'm telling you, he's got to be that killer, or it was a fix. There's no 2 ways about it. And you could probably bring up many more, examples. Since then, the Thought Police have been out in force, having to go at anyone who has a different opinion. I don't like that because they're trying to suggest that if you have a different opinion than other people, then you're silly in the head. I don't like that. And one of the people who've said such things is Box Nation's Steve Lillis, who I did have at one point quite a lot of I had a lot of respect for the guy. Honestly, I did. But more recently, in the last year, I've really went off him. I mean, one of the things he said was, "People need to bring me proof or shut up." Well, Steve, people are saying what they're seeing, and they're going to do that. They are the people who are buying the product. They can say what they want about the product. If you don't like it, you should come up with a good reason why it wasn't fixed, other than just having a go at the people individually. You know what I mean? So maybe you should think about that. But then again, this is to everybody else now, not towards Steve Lillis. This is the same guy, right, who said, "I think Howard Foster is the #1 referee in the UK." And I asked him, I tweeted him, I said, "You said that. Do you stand by that?" And he said yes. So basically on that moment, I lost all respect for the guy, because either Howard Foster's the best referee, but our referee is of shite standard, or he's just a liar. He's a liar. But Box Nation have got a history of sticking up for fights that are extremely controversial, and they've said the fix is not in. I'll give you a few examples that I can remember. Just recently, Hook versus Arslan 1, they said the fix is not in. Abraham versus Wilberforce Shipchetto, even though a lot of people thought Wilberforce won that fight, they said nothing about that. They said, yeah, the fix isn't in. CJ Ross versus CJ Ross scorecard on the Mayweather Alvarez fight, they didn't say the fix was in then. And Rosado versus Leon Love, once again, they didn't say the fix was in there, even though Rosado won the fight and Leon Love didn't make weight and failed the drug test. You see what I mean? Box Nation, take whatever they say with a pinch of salt. Now I'm going to talk about how I see the Deontay Wilder versus Malik Scott fight, and there's only two ways you can look at this. The best case scenario for boxing and its validity is that Deontay Wilder hits so hard, he hits harder than anyone that we know of today, and that people can comprehend without actually feeling the power in his punches. The left hand, which was thrown not as a power punch, by the way, but to move Malik Scott in a direction to open up the dangerous Deontay Wilder backhand, was just so powerful. And also Malik Scott has got so terrible of a chin and so terrible of a heart that he was rocked to his core from it. And the blocked right hand just was enough to put him over, and the lack of heart and also total lack of equilibrium from the left hand stopped Malik Scott from even considering getting up and trying to win the fight when there was 11 rounds left, and I think 1.5 minutes left of the first round. He just couldn't do it. Or option number two, and option number two is he was approached by an organised crime outfit. He was offered a large amount of money to go down and stay down in a specific round. He took the money, felt a punch, and went down and stayed down. Okay, I'm going to give you a few now different types of sports that have been investigated for match fixing, and the first one I'm going to give you is cricket. Now, there are currently 16 international cricket players banned for match fixing, and it all comes down to them not being paid that much money. They get offered a large amount of money by middlemen from crime organisations, and then all they have to do is fix the match somehow for them to make a lot of money on in-play betting. That's how it works. I'll give you an example. Okay, Pakistan is one of the top cricket countries in the world, but they've got the most banned players for match fixing. It's true. Now, their top players get paid 25k a year. Now, that's compared to 40k a year some England players can get for cricket. Okay, so there's a huge disparity in the wealth here. You can see that they get paid 25k. That's not a lot of money. So if you earn 25k a year, and someone comes over to you and says, here's 300k to share between you and a few of your players to throw a few no balls at specific times, right? You've got a real temptation on your hand. And at which point, somewhere in unregulated or lowly regulated betting syndicates all over the world, bets are placed, large bets, and they win significant winnings, and then they do it at different times of the year. You see what I mean? So this can be done in play, and it can be done quite easily. But people will say cricket's not a worldwide sport, and I'll say, oh, okay, well, I'll give you the worldwide sport example. In football, it's been investigated that referees in China have took one bribe in the first half of the match to help one team, and a second bribe in the second half of the match to help the other team win. But you'll say at that point, oh, well, that's China. And I'll say, yeah, okay, it's China. But it's not just China, because today there's been investigations are taking place in Spain, France, and Italy at match fixing. Even a Liverpool game was looked at in terms of match fixing. So you've got to look at it, you've got to look at it real hard, haven't you? Let me give you another example. A British investigator said, what makes you think the problem stops here at the UK borders? It's a problem worldwide. What makes you think it stops at the UK borders? Okay, and it's the truth, because it's going to be very hard to fix a Premier League game when you've got average players like Tom Cleverley or Danny Welbeck earning over 40k a week. That's £40,000 a week. Okay, why would they need to fix a match when they can play shite and earn 40k a week anyway? But let's look back a bit, because it's not them who are most likely to do it, is it? Let's look at teams in the very lower leagues. Some players will get paid like £500 a week. That's 2k a month, 24k a year, right? Now there's a significant chance if someone approaches you and says, look, I'll give you 100k, 200k, or even 300k to lose a match they're favourite to win. They could make obscene amounts. I'll give you a good example here. Hyde versus Southport, okay? I don't even know if they play each other, or if they're in the same league or anything like that. I don't know any of the players. I don't know if there's any investigations going on or anything like that. Who was the favourite in that match? I don't know. I don't know. But if that match was fixed, could anybody tell? Unless it was terribly bad acting. I don't think so. I think it'd be very hard to tell. So it's definitely possible that matches like that could be fixed, and they could make, obscene amounts of money from it, everyone involved. But let's look at boxers, okay? Because I've asked boxers how much they get paid, in confidence, not when I'm asking, not when I'm interviewing or anything. And they've always talked to me about it. And let's say a decent domestic scrap, sorry, that'll earn about 20 to 30k pairs, split between the two fighters, okay? Now that's paid for an 8-week work training camp. That's 8 weeks worth of work. Let's do a hypothetical bout. 30k pairs. One challenger takes 20k, the other one takes 10k. I get 4 of my friends together, we all own houses, we all remortgage our houses, and we get a combined 500k. Now let's offer the favourite and the champion 250k to throw the match and lose via KO. Now he might do, he might not do, but let's look at it like this, okay? Let's look at it like this. He's earning now 20k. I'm offering him more than 10 times it to throw the fight. Do you think he will do it? It's a very big temptation. I know I would think about it, definitely. We could all make 4 or 5 times the amount just on the guy, on the underdog to win. Just to win, never mind by knockout or anything like that. We could make obscene amounts of money if that happened. So don't say it's not possible to throw a fight, because when there's guys making low amounts of money and people offering obscene amounts of money for someone to win, it's definitely possible. At the end of the day, when it comes down to Deontay Wilder and Malik Scott, we won't ever know. Well, we won't know for a long time if that was a fixed fight or not, and it won't really matter either, because people will always say it was, even if it wasn't. But at the end of the day, I think what we do know is Malik Scott's top level career is clearly over, and he should probably consider retiring from boxing.